extension after this season, or how do you kind of look at that situation long term?
Yeah, I'm just focused on the Bears on Sunday. I've got a full day today, full day the next few days to get ready for them, and certainly want to be a Minnesota Viking for the rest of my career.
Okay, so that's the first time I've actually heard or seen him saying it. I've been reading the quote just on social media. But, do you believe that Kirk Cousins wants to be a Viking for life?
Yes. If things,
he didn't say it with a lot of enthusiasm.
No, I believe that he wants to be.
How bad do you want to be here?
I think he'd like to be here for the rest of his career. Paid a huge sum in his contract, but I think what's not being talked about is, do I think that he wants Mike Zimmer to be his coach for the rest of his career? Absolutely not. So I think Kirk wants to be wherever Kirk can be if he is paid the absolute most that he could possibly be paid and things are to his liking. Do I believe that things are to his liking right now? Absolutely not. So I think it's dependent on if Kirk approves. And I don't think that Kirk approves. And look, the thing about it is Kirk's not entirely wrong. I mean, there are things here I think that have gone sideways and that aren't being done well. And so I'm not saying, well, Kirk's a jerk for if that indeed is what he's thinking. But I don't, Phil, I don't really think like Kirk is like, I love this team or I love that team. I mean, Kirk made it pretty clear in that documentary that the league did when he chose the Vikings over the Jets, that his pursuit was the contract. Like his pursuit was, I'm going to maximize this. So I think if Kirk is given conditions with the Vikings that he likes, absolutely.
Yeah, I think the asterisk there is, and he didn't say this out loud, but it would be if I'm compensated among the top paid quarterbacks in the NFL for the next 5 years, right? And that's where if I'm the Vikings, I would say, all right, well, what's in it for us? So you're going to be 34 years old. What do you got? Like probably 5 years left. I don't think he's going to be, Tom Brady playing when he's 44 years old. I mean, well, nobody is. Tom Brady's the only guy who plays when he's 44. But like, let's say Kirk has 5 years left, and Kirk's saying, "Hey, I'd love to be a Viking for life. Let's lock this thing in, baby." Why would I want to lock into a decent, like 1,200 square foot apartment for $3,200 a month? Like, hey, this is a pretty decent apartment. Mm-hmm. It's wildly overpriced, but you can lock it in for the next 5 years. I would say, I mean, thanks, but I can probably find a similar apartment for like half the price, and I kind of want to keep my options open in case I, find something way better in like 2 or 3 years. Yep. What would be in it for the Vikings to lock into Kirk Cousins as quarterback for life the next 5 or 6 years?
Oh, zero. Oh, if I'm the Vikings, I don't. But I'm saying, do I think Kirk desperately wants out? No. Do I think Kirk wants things more tailored towards Kirk? Absolutely. But yeah. From the question of if I was the Vikings GM and you came to me and said, could you foresee Kirk Cousins being your? I'd say no. I couldn't.
The other thing here too that I've been thinking about is he's been here for 4 years. He's been here for like a half a decade. So it's not like, hey, this is kind of a 1 or 2 year trial thing. I mean, he is the Vikings franchise quarterback right now, and he is in the middle of his prime, and he's been here, like I said, for a half decade. Does it feel like Kirk Cousins is the face of Vikings football?
Not even close. No.
Like Joe Burrow's been in Cincinnati for literally 18 calendar months.
No.
And Joe Burrow feels like the Bengals mascot, right? Like Joe Burrow is the Bengals. Justin Herbert is the Chargers. Yeah. And a lot of it's because those guys were drafted by those teams, and so like there's probably just more of an emotional connection with the fan base to those guys because they weren't hired as mercenaries. They were drafted to be the 12 to 15 year starters. But even though Kirk was hired on as a mercenary, he wasn't drafted by the Vikings. I feel like after 4 years as the starting quarterback, that your presence and personality, if there was more of either of those things, would be more synonymous with the identity of the Vikings. And it just doesn't feel that way after 4 years.
I'll give you a hot take off of that point. Brett Favre is more a Viking than Kirk Cousins is.
It took Brett Favre like 2 months, and it's like, he is the heartbeat of Vikings football.
In 2009, Brett Favre literally was like, because, I mean, he was the thing about it is, and this is where Rick frustrates, I think, or should frustrate fans, because Rick thinks he's really smart. And Rick knows football. I'm not saying he doesn't. Is Rick as smart as Rick thinks? Absolutely not. And here's part of the problem with Rick. So to Childress's credit, and again, you know what? Going back in time, I still don't think Brad was a very good coach, but personnel wise, he was like he identified things really well. He probably ultimately, weirdly enough, would have been a better GM than coach. But you know, Brad,
the Vikings might have an opening.
No, I think Brad.
Want to find out?
I think Brad's done with
Wanna find
football.
out?
I think Brad's done, and I think that's fine. But you know, Brad, in some ways, correctly identified, I've got a really good team that's set to pop here. Unfortunately, I have not been able to find a quarterback. And so like they worked long and hard to get Brett. They tampered. They were found not guilty of tampering, but they tampered and tried to get Brett in 2008. And then clearly worked with Brett as a Jet to retire and come out of retirement and come here in 09. Rick saw that entire thing play out, and he played a role for sure. And then I think, you know, after 2017 here, I think Rick thought, oh, okay, Kirk Cousins will be the final piece that I will now plug in like Brett was in 09 here, only in this case, it was 2018. And what Rick struggles with is people. Like, I think he knows players, but he struggles with personality types.
The difference between Favre and Cousins wasn't the numbers.
It's not even
the numbers are the numbers are basically the same, right?
Right.
It's the leadership, the personality, the heartbeat, all of those things.
Do people gravitate towards you? Which they, like Brett or not, they gravitated towards Brett. So, but my point being is, I think Rick thought, oh, I'll plug Kirk in. Great stats, final piece, very different. And so to go back to your question, no, in no way, shape, or form. Like if you were to ask me right now, name the heartbeat of this team or heartbeats plural. Justin Jefferson, he's been hurt for 2 years. Danielle Hunter feels like more of a heartbeat guy.
Dalvin.
Yeah. Thielen. I was going to say, you can go down a laundry list. Yeah, equipment guys.
Crazy. Back to Koivu.
Over to Spurgeon. Over to Scandella.
I even think there's, and I'm biased too, because I obviously like Teddy Bridgewater a lot, but I think there's even a good amount of Vikings fans that still defend Teddy, then say, no, Teddy isn't he's not as good as you think he is. Whereas the Kirk stands are in the minority. I think a lot of more Vikings fans are fed up with Kirk Cousins. There's even a good amount of people who say, why did he even get rid of Case? Case Keenum was the magic carpet ride. Like, that was awesome. Let's buy into that. He was gravitational. He's a leader. We can rally around him. Where I feel like the Kirk stands are honestly in the minority than the majority of Vikings fans who just kind of look at Kirk and say, could do better.
And I tend to, when Alex Boone speaks on this show, like he's speaking on Purple Daily, I should say, on Tuesdays, by the way, you can find him. You know, he brings this in the room perspective. He's been in a Super Bowl and he's played at the top level in the NFC with the 49ers, and he had the 1 year with the Vikings. And he talks so much. I said this to him on Tuesday last week. Like, when he talks about winning football, he talks about it less from like a numbers and scheme and like play calling perspective and more from leadership, chemistry. Because in football, yes, it's a chess match, but it's also super physical. I mean, it's guys trying to move each other around the field, and you're trying to impose your will physically. And so emotion plays a part of it. Leadership plays a part of it, right? And this team under Kirk the last 4 years has felt so much flatter than the previous 4 years of Vikings football. And so, again, some of it's like when you have the number one defense in the NFL in 2017, and that's your identity, and you're rallying around it. Like, yeah, winning more games probably leads to better emotion and chemistry and all those things. So sometimes, it's the chicken or the egg theory. But it just feels like he is such a cardboard franchise quarterback. Why would you choose to lock into that any more beyond 2021
if you're the team?
Unless he wants to drastically take a step back,
you know what?
Financially.
I'd still be done because I don't think you can quantify the negative that Kirk brings personality-wise and the beta of Kirk. Look, the comp to Kirk in the room is probably the comp close Christian Ponder.
Personality-wise, absolutely.
Personality-wise, yeah. Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Talent-wise, he's phenomenal. Like we have to. I don't know why we don't want to talk about the fact that Kirk Cousins is really good, God-given ability. That's really fantastic. But when we're talking about the ability to lead, personality, again, intangibles, a word that drives the statistical people crazy, because intangibles you can't quantify, and so a lot of people want to dismiss them as, well, you can't quantify them, so just stop. Well, that's not life. You can hire a person in your workplace who's great, but if the person is an a-hole, it's going to be a problem.
And Kirk's not an a-hole.
No, but
he just blends in with the wall.
And he's
need more.
But he's a quarterback. You need a ton. But I mean, I'll go back on Ponder. It was pulling teeth because it's no talk about it among most, especially players. It was pulling teeth to get stories about how flat he was, about how unimpressive he was. But I mean, when Phil, we did the show when the Super Bowl was here at the mall, and I finally asked, I think it was Greg Jennings, when did you know this guy didn't have it at all? And he opened up about it and was like, yeah, you could tell he didn't have it. And
remember, this is another name that we don't speak of, but we used to have Darren Sharper on Royce and Mackey for like 2 or 3 years every Friday as a guest before he got put in jail. And he was a wonderful football guest before he got put in jail. And this is after he was done playing with the Vikings, and he told a story one time about how he came back and he was like covering a game or something, and so he was hanging out with some of the Vikings players at practice or somewhere. Mm-hmm. And there's like 3 or 4 of them, like a couple of his old teammates, and then Christian Ponder was in the circle too. And he said, I mean, I could tell you within 5 minutes of him standing in the social circle that he wasn't it.
Right.
That like he just didn't have that alpha personality that you need from a quarterback. And you're right, Kirk's personality and leadership style is much more like Ponder's, but his skills are like
off the charts, probably.
In terms of like accuracy and clean pocket and the ability to throw a deep ball, it's like if you could take Case Keenum's fire and personality and the leadership and the gravitational pull and put it with Kirk Cousins' skill set, the Vikings would have won a Super Bowl at some point in the last few years.
It'd be phenomenal.
Or at least it probably would have competed more aggressively for one.
But this is why it's so difficult for people to get their head around where Kirk is not good. Because look at the situations in which he struggles. They are situations where a person who eats difficult conversations for breakfast thrives.
It's situations where like you need to overcome something and grab it by the horns, right?
And what is this sport? Among all sports, this is, I think, the number one sport when it comes to looking adversity in the face and laughing back. I mean, Tom Brady had a receiver, and I get it was against the Jets who suck, but Tom Brady had a receiver disrobe and walk off the field on Sunday, and it didn't bother him a bit. Now, I think it did as a person, but he totally compartmentalized the entire thing and won that game, which most teams don't win. Mm-hmm. That's the type of thing. And don't say, well, it's Tom, you can't compare. No, actually, that's a very comparable thing, because I think that is a mentally strong person. I don't think that's, oh, he's so talented. I think he said, bleep it.
Yeah,
I don't have time for this right now.
Another thing came out yesterday, too. So Kyle Rudolph was on WFAN radio in New York with, I think it was Tiki and Tierney. Mm-hmm. And he told those guys that Daniel Jones is the best quarterback he's ever played with. Now, this is a year after Kyle, upon leaving Minnesota, wrote like a 2,000-word goodbye in the Players Tribune to Vikings organization, Vikings fans, a big ode and a thank you. And he listed dozens of former teammates and coaches and behind-the-scenes people. He listed like 5 former quarterbacks, right? He even listed Matt Castle and a couple other guys, Bridgewater, and he made no mention of Kirk Cousins. Mm-hmm. And I think we kind of unearthed that. Like we combed through it 3 or 4 times, and it became an aggregated story. And he saw the aggregation too, and chose not to. Like he could have, because Kyle's a big like, whoa, wait a second, that's been misinterpreted. Like his Zimmer comments, right, when he said it's nice to have a head coach that focuses on the offensive side of the ball instead of just focusing on all sides of the ball. And Kyle always comes out and he's like, well, no, that's not what I meant. The media is misconstruing. He was silent after the Cousins snub because that's how he feels. Can you imagine think about the quarterbacks that people compare Cousins to because of his numbers. Like, he's a top 5 guy. He's right there with Rodgers and Brady and Mahomes.
Right.
Can you imagine a former teammate of Rodgers or Russell Wilson or Brady or Mahomes coming out with a crappy, like, third-year failed bust first-round pick quarterback and saying, that's the best quarterback I've ever played with? Not Mahomes, not Rodgers, not Tom Brady.
Right.
I mean, and I know there's a lot of Vikings fans that are, Kyle's just sour grapes, and there's probably some of that, and I don't think he actually believes that Daniel Jones is the best quarterback he's ever played with. I think it was a slight at Kirk Cousins.
And what's so intriguing about both Kirk and Kyle is this: both are part of the problem, and both are guys I don't want in my room. Kyle, for all of, and look, Kyle did great work off the field, okay? But he's another one of those locker room lawyers. I'm the captain of this team. I mean, the man was hobbling out to the center of the field last year, I believe, on crutches to be there for the coin flip. It's like, dude, empower a teammate to be a captain. Just stay. But that's Kyle. And Kirk is a beta. Kirk is not a quarterback personality. Kirk lacks intangibles. This is where, again, I'll go back to it, guys. A guy like Bill Guerin identified both of those type of guys and said, they got to go. They got to go. We can't have that here. And so I think Kyle not mentioning Kirk speaks volumes about Kirk and Kyle. And these are the type of people that if I was to get the GM job, which I think I could actually do, but I'm not quite sure about that, but I would clear out. Both of you would be gone.
So because we talk about the cap hit all the time, because it's the albatross, right? You're paying a good quarterback who has these deficiencies we talk about, great quarterback money, and it prevents you from being able to operate as freely as you would in free agency. It makes you go to the used DVD bin a little earlier than you would. Yeah. You don't get the instead of Joe Tooney at right guard, you got to plug and play with Oli Udoh. So we talk about the contract all the time, but if Kirk, it's not even if, like, he is deficient as a leader, does it even matter what his cap hit is? No. Like, if you took $30 million off his cap hit so you could replenish the rest of the roster, would Kirk's deficiencies still prevent you from winning a Super Bowl? And I tend to think yes.
I don't think you'll ever have a galvanized locker room with Kirk at that position. Now, if he played linebacker, yeah, I think it's fine. I think it's no big deal. But all you have to do, just go back. 2017 was special, right? Why? Because that was a team. Like, what did Case do? What was Case great at? Because you know what? Zim was right. He certainly was not a great QB. Now, it was a magic carpet ride, and he played for him great. But what was the intangible there?
Well, people would say the intangible was that they had the best defense in the NFL, and everyone was in their prime. And if Kirk would have had the best defense,
But that's not the intangible. That's a given. That's there. What I'm saying is the intangibles were the locker room. The intangibles were that team was a team. The intangibles were Bradford got hurt, and Case stepped in. It's like, let's go. Let's do this. Kirk would be like, okay, let's do this, but we're gonna have to. But I don't want to make a mistake. And two, I'm just saying the biggest part of the problem with the Kirk stands and with people outside, it's not can Kirk play. Kirk can play really well. It's what can Kirk bring you. If Case Keenum had been a dead ass, and he had a good year, you think that they go that far? No way.
The part of my take, guys, had a great line on Kirk the other day that basically said, like, when you're around someone in the office, like, he's so quiet and he's so kind of blah, you just kind of even don't like him. You just kind of, you don't really like him.
I heard that, yeah, you said that to me too. He doesn't, it's not like he did anything to, like, piss you off. You just don't like him.
Yeah, and it's accurate. And like when Judd and I like went into the 2017 locker room, like after games, there was an energy around Case, not just in the entire locker room too, but there was an energy around Case. When I went in the locker room with Kirk for 2018-19, it just felt He's
not the cool kid at the head table, right? He's not the prom king type personality that people gravitate toward in a room. When he walks into a room, heads don't turn like they would if it was Rodgers or Russell Wilson. He's just kind of a guy with outstanding arm talent.
But the problem is he's sitting at the head of that table. That's the problem. You can't move him. So it's not like, well, you're the quarterback, but we're going to put you
and he's
at
not
the
offering
card
to
table.
Yeah, and he's not offering to go sit somewhere else.
Right. So you don't like him for a reason.
Yeah.
He's taking up the space of a person that should be there and saying, let's go, let's do this. Like when's the last time, or hell, since Kirk got here, give me a game where you felt, oh my gosh, oh, this is it. This is it. I'll give you one. It goes back to like the Denver game, and Denver stunk. We got excited.
There was the Lions game, but again,
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
The Lions game,
which frustrates me. We got excited because Kirk showed people against the Lions at US Bank Stadium.
Well, but that's the thing. Like we point to these sort of one-off regular season noon game examples, and I will say the throw he made to Thielen to dagger the Saints in a playoff game.
Yes,
that's awesome. But like that's the one. That's the one big one, the big playoff game. So, and that's what's complicated because people treat this so black and white. Like,
right.
What do you mean he doesn't complete fourth quarter comebacks? Look at these 4 examples.
Right.
Well, yeah, no one's saying that. No one's saying that he never does it. It's that.
Right.
It's that he's, again, just to go back to like the beginning of the conversation here. He's not a trash, bad part of town apartment. All right.
Right.
He's like it's a decent livable apartment. All right. It's 1,200 square feet. There's a couple of bedrooms. It's fine. Mm-hmm. It's fine. But you're asking me to pay $3,500 a month for it and potentially lock in for multiple years. I'm good.
And because of that investment, you've got to get a small TV,
crappy car.
You can't afford a couch. You got a chair. It's a cardboard chair.
These
or something.
are all questions I'm going to ask on Saturday when I tour an apartment. These are now all questions that I.
Oh, you're moving, huh?
Touring a couple places.
Oh, okay, very nice. The thing that I would say is this, and this goes to the Kirk discussion, and it probably goes to life too. I think the problem that we have, and like Rick, we always tip our hands about things that we're weak at, but by trying to like tell you how great we are at it. Rick's got his PowerPoints of we have the psychologists come in and we talk to people. We know people. The reality is Rick can't read people, and that's a problem. That's a problem. And people, I think we would all be better off if we just admit what we're bad at. Like I'm bad at math. I'm bad at statistics. I like them. I like to look at, but I mean, no. But like Phil, you're really good at like you and Pat are really good at looking at facts and figures and deducting what that means exactly. Lots of times I have to ask because I'm curious, but I mean, statistically, my mind just sort of sucks. I think we would be better off if people who like Kirk, but just like stats would say, I don't really read people well, so I can't figure out what so here's my problem. Explain this.
Instead of dying on the hill and saying, no, because of his stats, you're an idiot and he is a god and everyone else should be fired. It's like, whoa.
I am good at reading people. Like I can pick up things fairly quickly because we all have different strengths. And if we would just say, like if Rick would say, yeah, I fanned on Kirk because I'm really bad at personality types, because he just is. Like we've seen. Again, I will go back. Jeff Gladney is not you never knew that he was going to pull his girlfriend around by the hair and get indicted. Like at some point in time, you're like, this guy's got something a little bit off, right? So anyway, I think that's the biggest part of these discussions is people want to say, well, the intangible thing, who cares? Well, you know what? In pro sports,
it's a huge part of this thing. Yes. By the way, if you can read people so well, all right. Am I smiling right now or not?
No, you're not smiling.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I was smiling.
Oh, no. I think it came late. But anyway, it's an interesting discussion.
Okay, how about now?
No, I'd say no.
Uh-oh.
Jax, he's changing it. He's changing it in a second. This is like that soccer thing he did on Write That Down.
Yeah. And then he was wrong on all 3.
You got yours.
By the way, that discussion about Kirk Cousins was presented by our friends at Federated Mutual Insurance Company. And some people might say, why don't you just give the guy better protection up front and watch him play to his fullest peak potential. Well, that's where Federated comes in. They are all about, they're basically your offensive line as a business owner. They've got a great product or tool on Federated Insurance called My Shield. That's what the Vikings need. I mean, 5 guys, let's call them Our Shield. My Shield. Keep the quarterback from getting pressured. So Federated is all about helping you mitigate risk, and they're really here with all kinds of resources and people that have been around for a long time. FederatedInsurance.com, and remember, at Federated, it's our business to protect yours. Every Thursday, Declan goes back into the Twitter archives. Old tweets exposed.
We're a bit all over the board. I got a Wolves take I'm about to bring from Mackey. I have a Spielman take I'm about to bring for Judd, and something else from me as well. Let's start with Phil. Here we go.
Okay. Oh, boy. I'm a little nervous
2012, December 16th, 2012. Shooter, Charlie Walter says, expect Brandon Roy back in the Wolves lineup in a week and a half. Well, as long as he doesn't take any minutes from Alexi Shved and Ricky Rubio. Oof.
Yeah, wouldn't want to take minutes away
Can't
from
do that.
Alexi Shved.
Oh my God.
Oh, my God. This is also back in the day where when you retweeted something on Twitter, you would actually have to, like, copy their tweet and do the RT thing. And then the problem there was people would just, like, post fake retweets because they would they would cut and paste people, and then they would change their words. It's very dangerous.
Oh, I love
So
Twitter.
then Twitter had a built-in retweet function that was much better. Alexi Shved.
Alexi Shved.
Change your face.
Be happy. Be happy. For as much as we've always talked about recently, Spielman always trading back, Trader Rick. Why don't you just trade up sometimes, Rick? And, Judd pointed out something in 2015. Stephon Diggs' success is a big reason why it's smart of Spielman to accumulate so many day 3 picks.
Yeah, you never know what you
never
might
know what you get.
Yeah.
You might not know.
So many. Just as
So
many
many
day
picks.
picks as possible.
All the time.
Wow.
You get all those 3rd-round picks. Yeah, that's pretty bad.
No, third day picks. Third
Yeah.
day
Right.
picks.
No, I'm saying
yeah.
or
Woof.
day 2.
What's day 3?
3rd-round
Is that
pick.
5th round?
Yeah, fifth on.
6th, and 7th round?
I think it's actually 4th.
No, 4th.
Yeah,
4th,
5th,
5th,
6th.
6th?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's many of those,
Okay,
especially the
many of
6th and
those.
7th rounders.
That's pretty bad.
Those are
That's
Many
pretty
of
important.
those.
Pretty
All right.
bad.
Then from old Dex tweets his days at Twinkie Town. Twins
You were
blog.
at Twinkie Town?
I was a Twinkie Town guy. Yeah, I was a
With
Twinkie Town guy.
Jesse Lund?
With Jesse Lund, my guy Jesse Lund. Great
He was
dude.
great, man.
He's a great guy. Just finished a rough draft of a Tommy Malone piece.
You win.
Needs some work still, which is hilarious. But after writing it, I'm still sold on him bouncing back.
Wait
There's
a
so
second.
much to take away.
But you
here.
need some work? This piece needs some work?
Yes, like as in I still probably haven't finished the article, or God knows it's littered with grammatical errors. Like it could be a lot of things. I don't know what
Okay.
this first part means.
I love it. So you have crafted a Tommy Malone novel here for the audience to sink their teeth into.
Yep.
It's not quite done. It still needs a little tweaking here and there.
Little
But
tweak.
guys, pretty soon
But
I'm going to release this.
And he's gonna bounce back. And he's gonna bounce back.
I think Declan. I think
yeah,
he takes this
Declan
one for
wins.
sure.
I think it's safe to say that both the piece and the picture need a little bit of work.
Oh, guys, listen.
Guys.
Don't understand.
Tomorrow, I'm dropping
Tomorrow.
a Tommy Malone
Malone.
feature piece
On
here.
TwinkieTown.com.
I like how you teased it. It
Yeah.
needs some work. It's in the
It needs some work.
process of
It's in the
It's
process.
still, it's still
edited
baking. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's in the oven at 375 for a couple hours.
Man.
Good Lord.
Oh, my.
Alrighty. Yeah. That's,
With that,
embarrassing.
we'll bid you adieu.
That's been Reckless Speculation Thursday here on Mackie and Judd, Daily Minnesota Sports Entertainment. Feedback Friday. Tomorrow you can always hit us up on the SKOR North app. There's a feedback tab. You can send us your request to be on. Write that down. Comments, questions, critiques. You can send us videos, photos. So check us out. We'll see you guys tomorrow.